Now, before we move into the class, can you just analyze these terms? Design, machine. What do you mean by design? What all ideas you come across when you hear the term design? A model, yes. Okay, shape. Now you might have seen various designs or various models of cars which are manufactured week after week, or you can say once in 4 days, isn't it? Each company creates new models just to create the structure and arrangement scheme. Yes, this all comes under design. The basic thing is, what is the purpose of design? Can anyone tell what is the purpose of design? Is to create the product. Fine. Yes, to meet the requirement. Yes, okay. That is, we all are aiming to make or work out a plan for device. Yes. We are all aiming for a better living or improving ourselves, isn't it? We are all aiming for improving ourselves. We don't want to be in a state of idleness. Rather, we want to improve ourselves. Therefore, design includes those creation of new ideas. Creation of new ideas for what purpose? What is the purpose of these new ideas? For improvement. Initially, if there was no car, means a car was produced. But did we stop at that first made car? You can see there are old model cars, but it changed rapidly as years went on, because the basic idea behind was for the improvement in certain areas. Am I correct? We need to improve in the fuel consumption area and also in the efficiency, and there are different aspects involving a certain machine or certain equipment. Now, can you just give a brief definition of a machine, or what do you just understand by a machine? What ideas can you get when you hear the term machine? You might have come across various types of machine. Yes, from childhood itself, you might have seen toy cars and other. In your house itself, you might have dealt with many machines. Yes, Krishna is saying that it's combination of one or more parts to get the desired output. Yes, perfect. You can tell like that, that is a combination of one or more parts to get the desired output. Sahar telling that in a mechanical or electrical device that transmits or modifies energy to perform or assist in the performance of human tasks. Yes. Actually, how many of you have seen the film Three Idiots? Yes, in that film, almost all of you have seen the film Three Idiots. That film itself, this term, yes, that's it. Machine, definition of machine was asked. And do anyone of you remember what was the answer that our hero gave? Yes, what he gave was machine is anything that reduces human effort. That's a simple language. We can say that machines are those things which reduces human effort. Am I correct? That is, as many of you have just rightly said, that is, it aids the human in doing some work. And now we are interacting because we are having a system, a computer, a laptop, and internet connection. These are all methods by which we are increasing the human comfort or we are reducing the human effort. If this laptop or the internet connection were not there, then we could not have conducted this online class. Am I correct? Yes. Therefore, these are all things which reduces human effort. Therefore, anything which reduces human effort can be called as a machine. It need not be mechanical or electrical alone. Any other system which reduces human effort can be called as a machine. Okay. Before getting into the core of design of machine elements, there are some prerequisites needed so that you understand the subject very well. Therefore, I will just give you some basic concepts. Yes, are you able to see? Yeah, fine. So let me ask one by one. Let me take a whiteboard. Now, usually we follow the unit system as System International Unit or SI units. Now, what is the SI unit of length? Yes, SI unit of length is meter. Now, what about time? What is the SI unit of time? Second. Yes, second. Usually write it as S, letter S, denoting second. What about mass? Yes, the SI unit of mass is kilogram. And one more fundamental quantity is there, that is temperature. Usually we don't use temperature in the case of design subjects, but anyhow it is a fundamental quantity and the unit is, yes, K, capital K standing for, can you tell? Capital K standing for Kelvin, right? So these are the basic fundamental units and these are the basic fundamental quantities. These are the quantities and these are the units. Therefore, all the derived quantities are obtained from the fundamental quantities. For example, let us take the case of velocity. Let us take the case of velocity. How do you define velocity? Yes, velocity unit is meter per second. How do you define velocity? Velocity V is equal to, velocity V is equal to, yes, distance by time. Distance traveled per unit time. Therefore, the unit naturally comes to be, distance unit is meters and that of time is second. Therefore, it will be meter per second. Is there any doubt in that? Okay. Now, once we have known velocity, the next term that comes into our mind is acceleration. Absolutely. Acceleration. So what is acceleration? What is acceleration? Yes. Change of velocity with respect to time. Rate of change of velocity with respect to time. For change in velocity, I can write anything which is changing, I can denote it by differential d. What is changing? Velocity is changing. Therefore, I am writing in as dv. With respect to time is also changing, isn't it? So it is dv by dt. You might have seen in the case of bikes, etc., the specification is 0 to 60 kilometer per hour in 7 seconds, like that. Have you seen? In almost all the advertisements of motorbikes, you can see the specification as it reaches 0 to 60 kilometer per hour in 7 seconds. Actually, what it indicates, what is the specification? Yes, 0 to 60 kilometer per hour means it indicates the velocity change. Initial velocity is 0 kilometer per hour to final velocity is 60 kilometer per hour. Therefore, this is change in velocity. And initial time was before, when we are starting the bike, the time is 0 second. When it has reached 60 kilometer per hour means it has reached, time has reached to 7 seconds. Therefore, it is giving you the change in velocity with respect to change in time. Am I clear? It is giving you the change in velocity in with respect to the change in time. Therefore, what is that specification? What is dv by dt? Yes, within 7 seconds it can reach 60 kilometer per hour. That is in simple sentence. Or what we are getting, it is actually acceleration that is being given by the company. This much quickly it can accelerate. Am I clear? Yes. What about others? Okay, fine. Therefore, can you tell me the unit of acceleration now? The unit of acceleration? Velocity, the unit is meter per second. Time, the unit is second. Therefore, the unit comes out to be meter per second square. Meter per second square. Okay. Now, once we have defined acceleration, now the next thing is to define force. Next thing is to define force. Can anyone define force? Force is defined by Newton's second law of motion. Newton's second law of motion. Yes, we already know the expression force is equal to mass into acceleration. Now, Newton's second law of motion states that the acceleration produced in a body is equal to the rate of change, or the force with which a body can be stopped or moved is equal to the rate of change of momentum. Therefore, the new term comes here, the momentum. What is meant by momentum? Denoted by letter P, momentum is the product of mass and velocity. Momentum is the product of mass and velocity. For example, let us take a man having say 50 kilogram is moving with say 10 meter per second, whereas an elephant of say 250 kilogram is moving with 5 meter per second. Of these two, which will be having higher momentum? Which will be having higher momentum? Yes, you can see that the elephant will be having a higher momentum. Even though the man is running at 10 meter per second, his mass is only 50 kilogram. Therefore, the momentum here P1 is only 500 kilogram meter per second. Whereas the momentum of this elephant is how much? It is 250 mass into velocity into 5, or it is 1250 kilogram meter per second. Therefore, now listen carefully. According to Newton's second law of motion, force is defined as the rate of change of momentum. Rate of change of momentum with respect to time. So I am just writing momentum, that is mass into velocity. Change of momentum with respect to time means it will be d by dt of m into ve. Is there any doubt in that expression? Is there any doubt? Please let me know. Force is defined as the rate of change of momentum, that is d of mv means change of momentum by change in time dt. Can I proceed? All of you? Okay, fine. Now, you know that the mass of the system or mass of the object will not change. Therefore, here this mass is a constant. Therefore, I can take it outside. So it will be mass into dVe by dt. Am I correct? Mass being a constant, I can take it outside. Therefore, it will be m into dVe by dt. Or what will be force? What will be force? Yes. M into, yes, now we have derived that expression. This is nothing but rate of change of velocity, that is acceleration. So force is equal to mass into acceleration. Okay. I hope it is clear up to here. If there is any doubt, please let me know. It is clear, you can type C. That is the code that I have used last time also. Fine. The remaining are Sahar and Bharat. Is there any doubt, Sahar and Bharat? Okay, clear, fine. Yes. Now we move on to the unit of force. we move on to the unit of force. What is the unit of force? Yes, Jagannath says it is capital N, standing for Newton. Yes, Sahar also tells it is Newton. That's why I hope all of you know this unit of force is Newton. Now, can you define 1 Newton? Can you define 1 Newton? Okay, in our lower division classes, we might have defined force as a push or pull. Do you remember? We usually just stated force is a push or pull. Either we are pushing an object or we are pulling an object. Now let us see an example. Say, if I am placing a block of 1 kilogram, I am placing a block of 1 kilogram which is at rest. Which is at rest. At rest means what is the velocity V1? Yes, V1 is 0 meter per second. Now, in order to move the object, what I should give? I need to move the object towards this direction. Yes, I need to give a push or I need to apply some effort or force on the body. Now when I am pushing it, what happens is the body starts moving and it attains a velocity of 1 meter per second and the time taken is 1 second. The time taken is 1 second. Therefore, here I have given a force. Due to that force, the body which is at rest means 0 meter per second has traveled a distance of 1 meter in 1 second. Or I can say that it has attained a velocity of 1 meter per second. Now how to define 1 Newton? You can just put F is equal to m into A. Here we are having mass is equal to 1 kilogram, isn't it? And what about acceleration? How much is the acceleration? Here the change in velocity is how much? From 0 it has attained 1 or 1 meter per second is the change in velocity. And what is the time taken for that? The time taken is 1 second. Okay. Or acceleration is 1 meter per second square. If this is 1, obviously the product will also be 1 and that is known as 1 Newton. It's very simple. Force is equal to mass into acceleration. Put values of 1 kilogram, 1 meter per second square, you will get 1 Newton. Therefore, how can you see it physically? You can see that in order to produce an acceleration of 1 meter per second square on a mass of 1 kilogram, how much force I should apply? Again, my question, in order to produce an acceleration of 1 meter per second square on a mass of 1 kilogram, what is the force that should be exerted? Yes, I should exert a force of 1 Newton. Yes. Shall we now move to the next term, that is pressure? Okay. Fine. So can you tell what is meant by pressure? Yes. Krishna says that is force per area. Bharat also agrees with him. Pressure used for fluid. Okay, we are having pressure energy in fluid and also solid. Here in the design of machine elements, we are basically dealing with solids or fluids. Design of machine elements. Usually machines are made of solid materials. Therefore, naturally, we are discussing the pressure that is acting, pressure force that is acting on solids. Yes. Yes, like that, thick or thin cylinder. It depends on various conditions, on application of force in springs, gears, etc. There are certain pressure loads that comes into play. So pressure P will be force per unit area. Now, what will be the unit of pressure? Yes, it is nothing but Newton per meter square. Now, can you all visualize this 1 Newton applied on 1 meter square? See, what is this area? If we are having an area of 1 meter square means, that means a region with length is equal to 1 meter and breadth is equal to 1 meter. Am I right? Yes. For on this area, if I am applying a force, I am applying some force. How much force? 1 Newton. Remember how much is 1 Newton? That push which created an acceleration of 1 meter per second square in a body of 1 kilogram. That much push, if I am applying in an area of 1 meter square, I will get 1 Pascal. This 1 Pascal is equal to 1 Newton per 1 meter square. Am I right? Pascal is the unit of pressure and we define 1 Pascal as 1 Newton force applied on 1 meter square. See, usually we denote the practical unit is Newton per millimeter square. You will be dealing with this. Majority of the Young's modulus, stress, etc., strength, etc., will be expressed in Newton per millimeter square or gigapascal or megapascal, like that. So let us see what does it indicate and how it is related to Newton per meter square. So first of all, what you should be clear is what is meant by 1 Pascal. 1 Pascal means it is 1 Newton per 1 meter square. Is that okay? Okay. What about the rest? Yes, fine. Now, well, how much is 1 millimeter square? Have you ever seen 1 millimeter square anywhere? One millimeter square. First of all, what is 1 millimeter square? a length of 1 millimeter and a breadth of 1 millimeter. So this is enlarged view. It is 1 millimeter length and 1 millimeter breadth. So this much portion is 1 millimeter. Actually, it will be very small, isn't it? Very small. Have you ever seen? Yes, any one of you? Have you ever come across 1 millimeter square? Yes, where? In vernier. Okay. See, I hope all of you have seen our graph sheets. Have you seen the graph sheets? Yes. In that graph sheet, this much is 1 centimeter, and again you can see very much fine lines which represent 1 millimeter, and you get what is known as 1 millimeter square sections in that. That is the smallest square sections in the graph sheet represent 1 millimeter square. Now, can you all imagine how much small 1 millimeter square area will be? Okay. Now, we have defined 1 Pascal as that force 1 Newton, which we have discussed earlier. That 1 Newton is acting on this much area, 1 meter square. I hope you might have seen 1 meter scale. Therefore, you can imagine how big area is 1 meter square relative to 1 millimeter square. Okay. Therefore, if I am applying 1 Newton in that small section, small area, that is what is meant by 1 Newton per millimeter square. Is that crystal clear for you? 1 Newton per millimeter square means I am applying a force of 1 Newton in an area of 1 millimeter square. Now, can you find out the relation between these two? Well, let us try. 1 Newton per S. How do we relate meter and millimeter? 1 millimeter is equal to 10 raised to minus 3 meters. As Mukundan, you have written it as 10 raised to minus 6 Pascal. Am I right? Okay, let us see if the answer of Mukundan is right. 1 millimeter is 10 raised to minus 3 meter. Therefore, this millimeter square, I can replace it by 10 raised to minus 3 meter means I have obtained it as 1 millimeter. I need to square it, isn't it? Is this step clear? Now what I am doing is I am converting Newton per millimeter square like this. Instead of millimeter, I have replaced it by 10 raised to minus 3 meters. And that square we should do, isn't it? So it will be 1 Newton per 10 raised to minus 6 meter square. Now, this 10 raised to minus 6 goes to the numerator, it will become 10 raised to 6 Newton per meter square. Am I right? Okay, therefore what can you infer from this? What can you infer from this? 1 Newton per millimeter square is equal to, what is 1 Newton per meter square? What is 1 Newton per meter square? Pascal. Isn't it? Therefore, it will be 10 raised to 6 Pascal. Now, then if you check, you might have made some mistake. You got it as 10 raised to minus 6, isn't it? But it is actually 10 raised to 6 Pascal. Is that okay? Yes. Therefore, we get 1 Newton per millimeter square as 10 raised to 6 Pascal. Or what is 10 raised to 6? Is nothing but mega. Mega indicating 10 raised to 6, or 1 Newton per millimeter square is 1 megapascal. So this relation you should know, because often in all problems we'll be dealing with megapascal, gigapascal, etc. And what about gigapascal? Giga means 10 raised to 9. 10 raised to 9 Pascal. Or it will be 10 raised to 3 megapascal. 10 raised to 3 megapascal. Yes. How much Newton per millimeter square? How much Newton per millimeter square? 1 megapascal is how much? Yes, 1 Newton per millimeter square. As you will get 1 gigapascal is equal to 10 raised to 3 Newton per millimeter square. Yes. I hope all of you have clearly understood the conversion of the pressure unit from Newton per millimeter square to the SI unit Pascal. Okay, fine. Now, next, we move on to a concept that is known as the stress. What is meant by stress? Now we have already defined pressure. We have already defined pressure as the force acting per unit area. As a force acting per unit area. Now next we come across the term stress, and you will find that during the entire course I will be using stress, normal stress, shear stress, crushing stress, punching stress, like that. So we should have a clear idea of what stress indicates. Yes, Jagannath says it is the internal resistance per unit area. So since you are all working personnel, in the job you might have come across different stress situations, isn't it? That is a sort of mental stress, isn't it? Yes, that is, suppose I'm taking the case of yours as the example. Suppose you are required to do different jobs, different type of work. Different jobs are entrusted with you, and you have to complete that job within a certain period of time. That means the external jobs or external loads are acting on you. The external load here means the work or jobs that you are entrusted with. And that in yourself will create a resistance, or some stress will develop within yourself. Yes? Am I audible now? Yes, Mukundan? Yes, Mukundan, please refresh your page, I hope. 1 minute. Okay. Now, these jobs are the external load that is acting on you, and some type of stresses develop inside you. Yes, now is it clear? Is Jagannath? Is still problem existing with the sound? Okay, fine. Now, the mental stress develops inside you, but you overcomes it, isn't it? You overcomes it and accomplishes the task. Then you can say that you have enough strength. Later on, in the next section, coming sessions, we will define all these with respect in terms of material, strength of material, etc. Therefore, that shows how much strong you are so that you can overcome the external load. But what if you are not able to cope up with the situation? You are very stressed up, or that point is reached that you cannot do any more work. In that case, what happens to you? You are off, isn't it? Or you fail in that situation. Am I clear? When the internal resistance within you is not able to overcome the external pressure, then at that point of view, we can say that we fail in our task. This analogy I'm just telling you so that we can apply it to the case of materials when we study in depth the different properties of materials. Therefore, stress is nothing but the internal resistance that is offered by a material when it is subjected to. When should a material or a substance offer resistance? Yes, when it is subjected to some external load, isn't it? Suppose you are not having any job to do, or you are not given any work, then you are relaxed, isn't it? You are having a free time. Therefore, will there any stress develop in you? You are not having any work to do, you will be in a relaxed state. Or the stress developed is, or there is no resistance which is developed internally. Am I clear? Okay. Therefore, the stress gives the internal resistance per unit area. For example, suppose this concept you should understand very much because in the strength of material section, which also comes under the machine design, we should know these concepts to do the problems. Okay. Suppose there is a body and I am applying some load. I am applying some load P. Or say, I am applying some load P like this. What happens to the body? This body is not fixed. It is just lying on a table. Just lying on a table. I am applying a force P. What happens? Yes, it will move along with the force. Will there any stress developed inside the body? No. Is there any change in shape occurring to the body? No. Yes, fine. Now, suppose I am fixing this end. I am fixing this end. I am fixing this end like this to the wall. This is a wall. I am fixing the end and now I am pulling with a force P. Now what happens to the body? I'm fixing one end. I'm fixing one end and I am applying a force P. What happens to the body? Yes, Bharat, you are telling that it will stretch. Yes, it is under the tensile stress or tensile force is acting, therefore it is elongating. Absolutely right. That means what happens? Now, it is fixed means this element is having an inertia or is tending to be at this state 1, at position 1. But due to this force, what happens? There will be a resistive force developed in this direction. There will be a resistive force developed in this direction. And as a matter of fact, if you are taking a free body diagram, force is acting in this direction and force is acting in this direction. Or what does this force do? It is trying to stretch the element or elongate the element. Am I right? Yes. Now once you have understood stress, we can go and classify stress. Stress can be classified into major two types, that is normal stress and the next one is the shear stress. Yes, tangential stress. Therefore, first let us see what you mean by normal stress. Yes, can anyone tell what is meant by normal stress? Stress along the direction of force. Okay. Perpendicular to the force acting on the area due to load per cross-sectional area. Yes. So let us see what exactly is. I think almost all of you have given the right answer. Let us see this bar. I am taking this bar and this area I am considering. It is rectangular area cross section, and if I am pulling it, actually this force is perpendicular to the area. Am I right? Yes. Therefore, the force acting perpendicular to the area of cross section, perpendicular to the area of cross section is known as what? It is known as the normal stress. It is known as the normal stress. Now, normal stress again can be of two types. That is the tensile stress and the compressive stress. So this type of force is tensile force. This is a tensile force. As a result of tensile force, tensile stress is developed. What is meant by compressive force? This compression, from the word itself you can know, compression means when you are applying opposite forces, what happens to the length? What happens to the length of the element? Yes, the length will get reduced or it get compressed. So this type of forces is compressive force, and as a result of this, there will be which type of stresses developed? There will be compressive stresses developed in the body. Okay, fine. Now, since we have seen, next one is shear stress. So, what is shear stress? Can you give an example of shear stress? Can you give an example of shear stress? The shear stress is acting parallel to the area. Yes, Jagannath. Scissors. Have you all used scissors? If you have analyzed the scissors, what is happening? You are having a plain paper. When you are using the scissors, what happens? You can see when you observe the scissors, see the scissors ends like this, face to face. The blades of the scissors, are they face to face? They are not face to face, but you can see that there is some misalignment between the two blades. Some misalignment between the two blades. That means that the paper gets sheared off. We say that the paper gets sheared off because this blade is acting in this direction, whereas the lower blade is acting in this direction. Yes, that means the force acting is the same because we are giving the force that is equal in magnitude, but the line of action of the force is different. Let us take another example. Say a riveted joint, say two plates I have riveted like this. With the help of a rivet, I have joined this. And the upper plate I am pulling it with a force F and lower plate with the same magnitude F. Now this is the line of action of force F and this is the line of action of the lower force. Now is this both line of action coinciding? In this case, the line of action was the same. But here, the line of action of the force is not the same. Or you can see that this plate, these are the two plates which are hinged together, these plates will get sheared off or teared off, you can say. Are you able to visualize that? From this section, this will be a circular section because this is a rivet. This area, force is acting like this, a different line of action. Yes, all of you? Can you follow what I am telling? Yes. Therefore, this type of stresses which acts tangential to the surface is known as shear force and the stresses developed as a result is known as the shear stress. For example, let us take a typical example like this, a cube which is fixed like this. Okay. Now, if I am applying a force like this, you can see that the cube will be tending to shift its alignment or the shape into a slanting position. Am I right? This will get deformed into the dotted section that I have shown. Therefore, you can see this force P is acting on which area? This area A, T. So this is very important. In many derivational problems, you will be subjected to different types of situation of force analysis. So this should be clear. If this force P was acting normal to this area, then that will be which force? If P is acting normal to the area, that will be a normal force. Now, specifically, it will be a compressive force. But when I am taking this section, the force is acting tangential to the surface. or in order to enable you to visualize more clearly, suppose I am taking a glass plate of some thickness, glass plate. Okay, and I am keeping one more glass plate over it. Are you able to visualize that? I am keeping one more glass plate over it so that they are in contact. Now when you try to slide it over, now when you are sliding it over, actually the force which you are applying is on the surface of the plate. Am I right? When you are trying to slide the glass plates over each other, you are applying a force which is acting on the surface or acting tangential to the area. So that force is known as the shear force. I have been able to clearly convey to you the idea of shear stress and shear force. If it is clear, you can type C so that I can move forward. Okay, fine. So these are all the stresses which we have seen. Now let me move on. As we have seen this, the SI units, what is meant by 1 Newton, what is the force, pressure, stress. Yes, next comes is work. What do you mean by work? This obviously you might be knowing. How do you define work? Yes, work is defined as a product of force and the distance which the force moves in that particular direction. F dot D. Therefore, what will be the unit of work? Yes, it is Newton meter. We usually give work as joules, isn't it? We usually denote the unit of work as joule. Therefore, can you now try to define 1 joule? Now we have seen different 1 Newton per meter square, 1 Pascal, etc. Now you are in a position to define 1 joule. Can you just analyze this equation? To get 1 joule, what I should do? Put force equal to 1 and distance equal to 1. You just think and give me a clear definition of 1 joule. There is a body which was initially here, and afterwards it has reached a distance of 1 meter. Force applied is 1 Newton. It's almost done. You just give in terms of a complete sentence. You define 1 joule. Let me see how many of you are able to define 1 joule. So I'll just start it for you. 1 joule is that much amount of work done when? As Bharat, I just need the definition. It must be reached within 1 minute. Work done to move 1 Newton for 1 meter distance. Work done to move 1 Newton. Are you moving the force or the body? Yes, Mugandar? Body, isn't it? Therefore, work done when we are applying a force of 1 Newton to move a distance of 1 meter. Isn't it? That is, work done is said to be 1 joule when a force of 1 Newton acts on a body so that the body displaces through a distance of 1 meter. This body was here at this initially. Due to the application of this push or this 1 Newton, it has displaced to a distance 1 meter. So during this process, we can say that how much work is done? During this process, 1 joule of work is done. 1 joule of work is done. Yes, right. Now, what is meant by energy? Yes, it is the capacity to do work. And energy and work are having the same unit, joules. Okay. Therefore, you might have seen different, you might have heard of different types of energies. Can you just tell? First one is potential energy given by, okay, let us come to that. Potential energy, kinetic energy, pressure energy, internal energy, etc. In our course, we will be majorly dealing with flow energy. In our case, we will be majorly dealing with potential energy and kinetic energy. Especially in the case of clutches, springs, etc. Therefore, potential energy, how do you define potential energy? It is given by the potential energy means due to height or due to strain, given by mgh. And kinetic energy given by half mv square. If you analyze this unit, the mass is kilogram. G, what is G? Acceleration due to gravity. Again, it is a type of acceleration. So what will be the unit? What will be the unit of G? Yes, unit of G will be meter per second square. And what about height? Height is length, isn't it? What will be the unit? Unit will be a meter. And we have seen kilogram meter per second square. What it is? Newton, or mgh is Newton meter. What is Newton meter? Joules. Yes, work, or we can say that Newton meter is the unit of work, or joules, or energy is also having the same unit, joules. Am I correct? In the same way, can we do the analysis of kinetic energy? That is kilogram into velocity square. What is velocity square? Meter square per second square. Or again we will get kilogram meter per second square into meter. Is that clear? But this will be kilogram meter per second square. That is again Newton meter. Or again, the energy unit comes out to be joules. Yes, I hope it's clear. So we have the unit of energy and work as joules. Now next. Yes, what is power? What do you mean by power? Power is defined as the, yes, you all might be using electrical equipment and you might have seen electric bulbs of 60 watts. What does it convey to you? Yes, Mukundan, you are absolutely right. The unit of power is joules per second. It is rate of doing work. Rate of doing work is what is meant by power. For 60 joules per second. That means you should understand what it signifies. That means that your electric bulb, your normal electric bulb consumes how much energy in 1 second? In 1 second, it is consuming 60 joules. Here. And higher machines will consume more. Your engines, your rated power, etc. You might have seen the specifications of cars, etc. There is a rated power. These are all important things which comes in the specification of a machine. The power rating, how much energy it is consuming to run. Or we say that 1 watt is 1 joules per 1 second. Okay, fine? Yes. Next thing is, an important term comes here. What is meant by torque? What is meant by torque? We'll be dealing with different application problems involving different ranges of torque in different machineries, especially gears, gear frames, etc. You need to have a basic knowledge about torque. Yes, can you just tell me what is meant by torque? Yes, absolutely. It is a kind of twisted force is what Krishna says. Can all of you agree with him? Yes, Bharat agrees with him as twist force into distance is what Jagannath says. Yes. Let us see exactly what is torque, or simply, have you ever used a spanner? Yes, you might have used spanner for tightening or loosening a nut, isn't it? In that case, before going to that, let me give you a term known as moment. Moment of a force. Moment of a force. Yes, torque, spanner for special nuts, etc. Yes, right, Saha. So first, you should know what is meant by moment of a force. What is moment? Force into perpendicular distance of line of action. Absolutely right. That is, suppose there is a stick like this. There lies a stick or some pencil in your table. You can, now itself you can try. You are having a pen on your table, and on one end of the pen, you just give some force. You give some linear force like this on one end of the pen. Can you please try? Keep a pen on the table. On one end of the pen, just give a linear force. What happens to the pen? Yes, you can see that the pen is rotating. It rotates. Yes, can all of you observe that? Yes. Therefore, this rotation is caused due to the moment of the force. That is, you can say it is rotating about one point. If I am taking this as a point O, the force applied is F. So this is the perpendicular distance. Therefore, F into D, F into the perpendicular distance will give you the moment. Okay? Now, what is meant by a couple? What is meant by a couple? For example, if I am giving equal and opposite force at both ends, like this, equal and opposite force at both ends, you can see that the pen rotates more uniformly or a couple is formed. Am I right? Yes. So that is given by couple. I hope you in the childhood days you might have played in seesaw. Have you played in seesaw? Yes, and explain couple. Yes, for that is a couple means if I am applying a force at one end and the same force is acting on the other end in the opposite direction, then that makes the element to rotate uniformly. Am I clear, Sahar? So that is what is meant by a couple. Or couple means what? Two forces, but they are of opposite line of action. Now, yes, coming back to seesaw, there is a fulcrum here. One person will be sitting here, another person will be sitting here. And suppose the person sitting here is having say 20 kilogram, and here he is having 10 kilogram. Then obviously the state of the seesaw will be like this. This will be up and this will be down. Am I correct? Yes. Now, listen carefully. I am giving you a question to answer. So this is the fulcrum. Let this be the two ends. And let this distance be up to here, it be 2 meters, 2 meters, and up to here it be 3 meters. And here the, what is say 20 kilogram person is sitting, and here a 30 kilogram person is sitting. To which direction will the seesaw tilt? Either it will be tilting in this right or to left. As Sahar says, it is in the right. As Mukundan comes out with an interesting answer, he is telling that it will remain horizontal. Bharat also supports him. Yes, Jagannath also agrees with them. Yes, all of you are telling that it will balance. Yes, Sahar? Are you now sticking on to your answer? Or can you connect it with whatever we have just discussed with the moment? Now we can see here the moment which is created in this direction is how much? 20 into 3. Am I correct, Sahar? Yes, 20 into 3 or 60 kilogram meter. Of course, you can convert it in Newton meter, that doesn't matter. And what about the moment which you are giving here? 30 into 2 or again 60, isn't it? Well, the two moments are the same, or what you can say, they will balance each other. Am I clear to all of you? Yes, fine. Yes. Now, coming back to the usage of a spanner, see, if you are having a nut and we are using a spanner like this, and I am holding it here and trying to tighten or loosen the nut. Therefore, with the force is applied like this, and as a result of this is rotating like this. Am I clear? Therefore, a torque is developed. A torque is developed which will assist in either loosening or tightening the nut. Suppose the same thing, I am using a longer spanner. I am using a longer handled spanner. Suppose here the force required was 20 Newton. What will be the force required here? Will it be lesser force or greater force or equal force? Is my question clear? That is, initially I was using a spanner with less length of the handle. Now I am using a little bit more length spanner. And in order to tighten the nut, I needed to apply 20 Newton. Now if I am using a second spanner B, how much force should I apply? Is it lesser amount of force or more amount of force? Yes, obviously it will be less. Because we know that the force into distance will give you the coupled or moment or the torque. So this rotational effect which is produced is known as torque. Okay? So these are the basic things that I think you should be knowing in order to go into our core of the machine design course. I hope everything is clear for you. If you are having any doubt in the discussed topics, please let me know. Yes, I have got 3 responses. What about the rest? Okay, fine. Now, let us just go through the teaching plan. So this is the introduction class, which is of 2 hours. And next class, we will be dealing with the engineering materials and the stress strain diagram, specifically for ductile and brittle materials. I hope you all know about ductile and brittle materials. What is meant by ductile material? Yes, it undergoes some deformation. It undergoes some yielding, etc. before failure. Yes. Yes, we'll be dealing with that in detail with the help of stress strain graph. And obviously before that we'll be seeing simple stress and simple strain, principal stress, Mohr circle, pressure vessels, deflection, etc. Actually, these all portions comes under the strength of materials or mechanics of solids. But this is included in DME part, therefore we will discuss through that. Almost I think about 15 hours it will take to cover that. And then when you have a clear idea of these concepts, it will be very easy for you to understand the remaining subtopics. That is the theories of failure. How a material fails. Is it due to the shear stress or is it due to the tensile load, like that? Then we move on to the different type of loading, that is cyclic loading or fatigue failure. That means if you take a piece of, say, wire, a steel wire, usually hangers, you might using hangers for putting your clothes, isn't it? If there is a broken hanger, you try to twist it like this for many times. What happens? If you keep on twisting it up and down, or you are giving a cyclic load, it will break at one point. So that is regarding the fatigue failure. Then we will go to the design section, that is for power screws and fasteners, the rivet joints, weld joints, that will consume about 10 hours. Then coming to the group B, yes, these are all important components in automobiles. If you have seen springs, in trains, etc., we use buffer springs. How to design those springs to enable it to absorb the shock effectively. There you should emphasize on effective shock absorption. You might have seen your shock absorbers in your vehicles, isn't it? There are different types, like telescopic shock absorbers, etc., in which the basic component is a spring. Then we move on to the bearings which are used in the engines and shafts. Then these are the gears which forms the basic component of all the automobiles. Now you cannot imagine a automobile with a gear trains or gear set. Yes? Okay. Now then we move on to the design of shaft, types of joints. Then we design the clutches and brakes, types of clutches and brakes, and the power transmission elements, that is belt drive, V-belt drive, rope drive, etc. So these all are most probably the design aspects which you should know when you are dealing with an automobile industry or when you are dealing with some machines, etc. That's why these all design criteria. Which all criteria we should check? That is the failure, how the system fails, the failure test, etc. plays an important role in the design. At that aspect, we will check for the tensile strength, shear strength, etc. That's why I have emphasized on you mastering what is meant by tensile force, shear force, etc. And only you will get an idea of which section of the machine will fail. Accordingly, you should design that. Am I clear? Yes, anyway, as this was the introduction class, I've just discussed the basic concepts regarding the course, which is a prerequisite actually. Before concluding, let us also move to, we should have a basic knowledge of trigonometry also. Let us see the trigonometric ratios. Yes, what is meant by trigonometry? Can anyone tell? Trigonometry. Tri means it is three. Trigono, actually it is a Greek word meaning sides. And metry means measurement. Therefore, it is nothing but the measurement of the three sides of a figure. Three sides means which is that figure? A figure which is having three sides. Nothing but a triangle. Therefore, it is nothing but the measurement of the sides or angles of a triangle. I hope you might be having a basic idea. Let us take a right angle triangle. ABC, right angled at B. Suppose this is the angle theta. Now can you tell what is sine theta? What is sine theta? Sine theta means, I will just tell you, it is nothing but the opposite side by hypotenuse. Opposite side by hypotenuse. So this is the hypotenuse. And what is the opposite side for theta? This is the opposite side. So it will be, yes? Yes, right. AB by AC. AB by AC. Can you tell what about cos theta? Adjacent side. That is the side nearer to the angle theta. Adjacent side by hypotenuse, or it will be BC by AC. And what about tan theta? Yes, it is opposite by adjacent. That is AB by BC. If you just analyze these two expressions, in order to get AB by BC, or you will get tan theta is equal to sin theta by cos theta. Am I right? You put sin theta AB by AC divided by BC by AC, AC get cancelled, or you get AB by BC or tan theta. Now, what is Pythagoras theorem? The hypotenuse square, that is AC square, is equal to sum of the squares of the other two sides. AC square is equal to AB square plus BC square. Now if you arrange these two trigonometric ratios, finally you will arrive at, if you put these two, that is from sin theta you get AB is equal to what? AC sin theta. Am I right? And what about BC? Can you just tell? What about BC from cos theta? From cos theta, BC will be AC cos theta. Now this is the Pythagoras theorem. You can replace AB by AC sin theta. So it will become AC square sin square theta plus, what about BC? AC square cos square theta. Or you arrive at the famous conclusion in the trigonometric ratio, that is sin square theta plus cos square theta is equal to 1. Am I correct? Are you able to derive that relation? Yes, sin square theta plus cos square theta is equal to 1. Now using these two, you will arrive at three more important relations which you need to study. I'll just tell that, because in principal stresses and strains you need these relations. It is sin 2 theta is equal to 2 sin theta cos theta and cos square theta minus sin square theta is equal to cos 2 theta. Then 1 plus cos 2 theta is equal to 2 cos square theta. 1 minus cos 2 theta is equal to 2 sin square theta. So these relations you should know. Okay. And also obviously the sin square theta plus cos square theta is equal to 1. In the derivation part, we will be using this. Anyway, I will be telling at that time also, but please make note of it, these trigonometric relations. So I think today we will wind up with this, and next class we will be dealing with the engineering materials and the stress strain graph. If you are having any doubt, you all can feel free to ask.